Hey there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Joint Dynamics Intelligent Movement Series podcast. My name's Andrew Cox. I'm one of the owners and directors of a company here in Hong Kong called Joint Dynamics. And I'm also the curator and host of the podcast, which is so much fun, let me tell you. Because today I'm speaking with the Director of Hong Kong China Rugby Union, that is Andrew Douglas. So let me tell you something. I don't know if you're aware, but Hong Kong China Rugby, get that all out in one sentence, has just qualified for the 2027 Rugby World Cup in Australia. It's phenomenal news. It's great for Hong Kong China Rugby, excuse me. Welcome to the show, Andrew. Thanks for coming today, mate.
Cheers, Andrew. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah. Pretty big news, huh? Qualifying for the Rugby World Cup.
Yeah, look, I think to be the first to do something like that, it's always, something that the players can always take to their grave. No one can ever take that away from them. They're the first to get Hong Kong China into a World Cup. Massive for a small union like ours, obviously. We've been knocking on the door through charges for a number of years, but to finally get a pathway that's achievable and to do that is really satisfying, but bloody exciting too, with 2 years to go. So it was nice to have that time to plan.
Yeah, that's amazing. So that's something we can really dive into, is that roadmap. Actually, today's October 1st, 2025. In October 1st, 2027 is day one.
Correct. We'll be in
exactly
Australia
2
somewhere.
years.
Yeah, that's right. We'll be in Aussie somewhere, hopefully getting ready for match day.
Yeah, and they haven't divided it into the 6 pools yet, have they?
No,
That comes in November.
December they'll do that in Sydney. They'll put us into 6 pools and we'll know who we got. It's going to go on your your ranking. So obviously we're in the 23 or 24 or whatever it will be by that time. So we'll have one of those big teams in our pool, which is exciting. You're the massive challenge as well.
Just on that, I had this moment, like, holy cow, we qualified for the Rugby World Cup in 2027 in Australia. South Africa's going, oh shit, or France, or
yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's the reality of it. It could be South Africa and the All Blacks.
Yeah.
So in some ways, thinking, the All Blacks is the Kiwi. You're thinking All Blacks, how good would that be? And then you're thinking, Jesus. But so it's one of those things. You get two thoughts. Thankfully, the first one's excitement, but look, what a great moment for a young rugby player to say though they've been to a World Cup and they played against the All Blacks or South Africa. South Africa, what are they? Double last 2 World Cup winners. So to play them first up, how good. Man.
What a privilege. Let's be honest. Okay, regardless of the outcome, the likelihood that Hong Kong's going to beat South Africa or New Zealand is quite small.
Yeah, 100%.
But what a privilege.
Oh, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Again, first time ever.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're one of those players, you go onto that park playing for Hong Kong, China against All Blacks, South Africa, whoever it may be, Ireland. First time ever.
Mate, did you just get those chivets?
Yeah, look, it's just so exciting, I think. As a rugby fan, it's massive, I think. And hopefully gives us some momentum going forward and we want kids playing rugby. And this puts us on the map a little bit. Obviously Hong Kong's football dominated in some regards. To say, we're going to, 3rd or 4th major sporting event in the world. We've qualified, we've earned our place. Yeah. Let's get everyone excited about it.
Hey, let's pause for a second. Tell me about you. My first question was, Andrew, why rugby? But then I went, we're from New Zealand. apart from the obvious answer, you're a Kiwi.
Yeah.
Why rugby for you?
Look, I grew up in a household where, like a lot of kids in New Zealand, you get up at 2 o'clock in the morning to watch the All Black play England or Wales or whoever it may be, and your mum makes a cup of tea at half time and your dad throws something on TV if you're losing and cheers if you're winning. Typical. And Saturday mornings you're out playing rugby with your brothers and getting beaten up in the backyard. Normal type of growing up, playing in bare feet when you're 6 or 7. And it was just a natural progression, I guess. My brothers played soccer, actually, but I always played rugby at school and in the backyard. And so it was just a natural progression for me through high school to play rugby. Then when I left school and I went overseas and did all the normal things, So I just loved the game. What I loved about it. I was a pretty average rugby player. I did okay, but I wasn't a great rugby player. It was the camaraderie. I loved that room in the change room afterwards. Yeah, where you've won and you're celebrating and even that loss because you're taking it all together. You take those tough ones together as well, and you take that jubilation together. All my friends through school were guys I played rugby with. Yeah. So it was something, the game gave me so much. It was always going to be an easy one for me. I was a teacher by trade, so morphing into coaching came, was one of those things I guess was pretty easy and slid into. Coaching itself's not easy, but that progression into it was. Yeah. There's been a lot of learning along the way, obviously, and you learn from failure and all those sort of things. But what I loved about rugby was it didn't matter how good I was. If we weren't all pulling in the same direction, we couldn't succeed. In football, you've got the Maradonas and Ronaldos, and they can carry a team. Rugby doesn't work that way because if I'm not working hard, we can't succeed. If we're not all working for each other, it doesn't succeed. And that's the difference between it and, I reckon, football. Even if you look at American football, you got the best quarterback on the park, you got a decent chance. Rugby doesn't work that way. You can have Dan Carter, but if you're not all working hard for each other, it doesn't matter.
And
That's the beauty of it.
Also, the beauty of the game, because it is, well, now it's classified as a collision sport, where it's a contact, rough, physical sport. And you just said how if you're not putting in, but what's great about it is that brotherhood that's formed through adversity, through training, because you can't play the game if you're not in good shape. So it demands a certain type of discipline in order to have fun with your mates or your brotherhood even. You hear players speaking about now and saying exactly what you did. They're my brothers. You know, when you listen to the rugby league or the rugby union interviews with the players, it's a brotherhood. Yeah,
it's interesting because that word's used a lot, isn't it, in collision sports like rugby, and the best teams actually live that.
Yeah.
A lot of people talk it, but the best ones, they live it. Like, I think if you talk to Penrith Panthers, I'm pretty sure
oh my God,
they live it. You know, the All Blacks live it. South Africa, I'm sure, do as well. But it is unique because you are throwing your body into some pretty dark places at times, and the work that goes beyond, you know, you're right, through that adversity. And when you go through those dark trainings where you just put through torment, it brings people together.
Yeah.
You hate it at the time, then afterwards you love it.
Yeah.
That makes sense. You know, doing it, you hate it. Then after it, you're like, oh, it's so good.
Yeah, when you're high-fiving or sweating, hugging your mates,
exactly.
you know.
Yeah, you're missing a tooth or blood pissing, whatever it is, you know. And that's the uniqueness of it, I think.
Yeah.
You know, and you can't really be a prima donna because you get punched in the head. So it knocks that sort of ability out of you.
Do you know, I sometimes say that both my kids grew up playing rugby union here in Hong Kong. And my daughter stopped after it became contact. She was in it for the sisterhood.
Yeah.
And my son loves the game. And one of the things when we're talking about, I was a rugby league player, pretty average rugby league player, but I loved the game. And I love rugby union as well. But I always say to my boy, one of the things I love about contact team sports, in particular rugby league, rugby union, I found it's a new word, a good dickheadometer. Because if you're going on like an idiot, your mates go, stop going on like a dickhead, will you, mate? Like
100%.
Brotherhood.
And you get isolated so quickly, don't you?
Pull your head in.
Yeah, if you are a dick, you're isolated so quickly in a sport like rugby where you can't. You got to. I mean, you can have uniqueness. I think that's the beauty of it. You can be quirky or unique and a bit different, but if you're an absolute idiot, you get found out really quick.
And there's usually a leveler on the opposite team.
100%. You know? There's always a dark corner where that can go in and some ruck or more. And that's, I think even those quirky individuals, you know, they always find their place in rugby. But, you know, generally they're good people, if that makes sense, and good teams.
It does.
You get the odd wanker, but it's a rarity. They stand out.
Yeah.
They stand out, those people.
Yeah, especially when you develop that brotherhood that we spoke about, that it's really hard to thrive as a dickhead in that environment.
Well, I mean, a number of teams have that, the no dickhead rule. It's a pretty common word that goes around teams now, but, you know, you do kind of have to live that because your culture now is so important.
Yeah.
Every team's big and strong and fast. Every team knows nutrition, mental skills we talked about. Every team delves into those types of things, but your ability, like I said, to actually want to work hard for you because I want you to succeed as much as I want me to succeed. You know, that's the uniqueness of what I think separates the best teams from the teams that aren't probably performing as well as they should.
Yeah. You know, I can't remember what episode number. I interviewed this guy. His name was Damien Brown.
He was the jockey.
No, that was another guy. That was a Hong Kong guy. He's Hong Kong's most successful jockey, that guy, Zach Burton.
Yeah.
Anyway, but Damien Brown was a professional rugby player, played all throughout Europe and won the Heineken Cup. He was an extremely successful big rugby union player. And then he transitioned out of rugby, and guess what he did? He did the Marathon des Sables, the world's toughest race, according to what. Anyway, he just passed a comment on the transition outside of rugby, being a professional rugby player. I think it was for 15 years. And then he transitioned out into other. And now he's an extreme adventurer. He just does crazy shit. As a big man, rode across the Atlantic Ocean by himself, and he can't swim. Like, you know what I mean? So that's an indication of the type of bloke he is. Anyway, he passed a comment once. He said, what are you going to do now that you're in real life? Now that you're not playing rugby union, professional rugby union anymore, welcome to real life. And he just so eloquently said, you think this shit is for real? He said, you get on a rugby pitch and I'll give you real life because you are so present because of the consequences that come with the game, the teamwork. It was just such a beautiful observation of real life in a comparison to a collision contact sport such as rugby.
It's only a sport you're going to do if you love it.
Yeah.
Why would you play rugby if you don't enjoy it?
Yeah. I had facial reconstruction surgery from playing rugby league. Yeah. And then I went and played again because I just loved it.
That's exactly it. It's a sport. You only play it because you love it.
Yeah.
You're not going to step on that pitch otherwise.
Tell me the moment for you where you went, you know what? Because you were the coach of the Hong Kong China Rugby 15s team and you did some coaching with the women's team as well.
Yep.
But what was the moment where you just, as a school teacher, what was the moment where you went, you know what, I'm going to devote myself to being a rugby coach? Was there a moment?
Oh, look, I loved coaching from the start, to be honest. You know, I think I was pretty lucky I had success early as a young coach. I had a Waikato age group team back home in New Zealand that we weren't supposed to win anything and we ended up winning, you know, in that moment there where you had a young team pretty raw that you brought through and you won a championship. I kind of knew then that this is something I really wanted to do. At that stage, my teaching career, I'd just become a young deputy principal of a school. And then I had a bit of adversity the next year. John Mitchell was the Waikato coach at the time, and he said, look, can you come and do the Waikato development team, which was the second team, work with him, and you know, basically the players that doesn't play for the NPC team, they'll come back and they'll play for you, and we work together. And Mitch at that time had just been the All Black coach. He'd just gone down to do Waikato. So he was fantastic. He'd come into school in my office and he'd throw me against the wall, show me all the contact collision stuff we wanted to do. And Mitch was awesome. It's so good to see him now win a World Cup with the England woman. You know, it's fantastic.
That was amazing.
He's had a few knockers, Mitch, but I've got nothing but good things to say about him at that time. He gave me a lot of time as a young coach. But anyway, just before that season started, he got the job at the Western Force, their first ever coach in Super Rugby. And Warren Gatlin came in, and the two couldn't have been more different. Whereas Mitch was so giving with his time, Gats didn't really want to know. You know, he'd just come back from Wasps. He's at Waikato. He had started the job late. He didn't really want to give me much time because his time was going to be devoted to trying to get his NPC up to speed. So we didn't really talk. And neither team succeeded that year. And that sort of knocked me a little bit as whether do I really want this, you know, coaching wise? You know, you sort of, as a pretty impressionable coach, and you heard this guy Gatlin come in who was supposed to be, you know, one of the world's best, but didn't treat you like one of the, you know, like the person you thought he would, after having a guy like John Mitchell who treated you, couldn't give enough of your time to try and make you a better coach. So that was, at that stage, Gat said to me, the only time he really ever talked to me, he said, if you want the job next year, you're going to have to reapply. And you know what that means. You can read that right on the wall.
High five, brother.
100%. And my team had actually finished 5th on the table. His team had finished 7th. So I thought, well, anyway, I decided to go and coach my local club, and I won 2 club championships in a row. So the love of coaching came back straight away, and it was a good way to raise a middle finger to somebody that had doubted you, you know. So that was where I knew kind of I wanted to go.
We can do that right now if you want, mate.
Yeah. It was good. It was a good feeling. Yeah, that was a really good feeling. But I had 2 young kids. I was teaching at a private school. They were at the private school with me. I couldn't afford to have them at that school if I wasn't teaching there. So I waited till they were there near the end of their high school, and then I took off to Italy, coached a year there, and then got a call from top league in Japan from a guy who asked me to coach Toyota there. So I went over to Japan for a year, and then got the call to start a club in America in MLR, so Old Glory DC. They had nothing. They had 2 owners who had just got their permit to have a team in there. So basically I went over and built a team, which was, you know, you never get to do that as a professional coach. The chance to start a professional team from nothing, you'll never ever get, really. It's you know, that's a tough one. So to have the opportunity to do that, to build a roster, to build basically things from whatever your jerseys look like to your emblems to everything else.
What an amazing experience.
Yeah, so that was really cool. So 3 years in Washington, D.C.
They're still going?
They're still going. Yeah, not many are, but they are.
5.
That was fantastic. I loved my time in DC, and to, like I said, build a club now and see some of those players now, like the Jack Ascaros, Jemison, Farnan and Schultz, playing in the USA team that's just qualified for the World Cup. Yeah. Really satisfying to see that. And then obviously coming to Hong Kong, and now we're going to a World Cup. So I've been extremely lucky in rugby. But coaching, I sort of always, you know, like I said, when I had that kick, you know, the bump in the road, I still had a desire there to still want to do it, you know, and then going back and doing club. And coaching, you're always going to have your failures because you're not trying if you're not. If you're not failing somewhere, you haven't tried hard enough. So you just got to learn to ride those. And now as an older, experienced coach and knowing that those are going to come occasionally when you push boundaries too far or you miss something or whatever it may be, you're going to be a better coach after it. So, and that's, you still got to back yourself. And I think probably what I've always had is a little bit of self-belief that I know was always going to be all right, if that makes sense. So, I think that's just the self-belief in coaching, to stay in it as a professional. And luckily, things have generally worked out. Not always, but generally always worked out. So
the vicissitudes of success, don't we call that?
Yeah,
A to B is never that way, is it?
Exactly.
A to B is whoa,
That's
right.
Whoa. That's right. So, I think I still love coaching. I still love being on the grass. I could never do a CEO of a rugby. It just wouldn't suit me. I get so frustrated having to deal with politics every day. I'm too blunt and too direct and honest, I think, to do those sorts of roles. And so
that's cool.
Coaching suits my personality, I think. I love working with these young people and the other coaches there. So even though I've stepped away from the head coach's role, I'll still be on the grass a fair bit. I'll still be dealing with the players and working with the coaches because the love and desire there's still strong. So still energy.
And you said a great word there, because part of coaching is, I believe, is a transfer of enthusiasm or a transfer of your energy into the
100%.
team, and that self-belief is transferable, or the way that you frame legacy or the way that you frame privilege or opportunity.
Yeah, look, I think you got to love what you do, and I can't think of a better job in the world to what I do.
Mate, I'm stoked for you, seriously.
People, they ask you about your work. It's just, I love what I do. Today's a public holiday. I could quite happily be in the office working.
Thank you.
Going over video.
Yep.
I've got a wife at home who wants my time as well, so I've probably got to be a bit more considerate.
We're in the bar. We're the same. I love you, babe. Andrew.
Yeah. I love it. Yes, sorry, hon. But no, I just love coaching. I love rugby. So it's easy for me to talk rugby. I've got an office full of coaches and it's great because there's always rugby talk. It might be about what's happening back in New Zealand or the UK Premiership, the Women's World Cup. All these conversations have been going on over the last few weeks. So it's been awesome. But you got to be enthusiastic. You got to love what you do. You're in the wrong if you're not doing what we do and not loving it. Players often reflect their coach, I believe. Yeah. And I think if you're not loving it, you got to get out because you're going to drag players down with you. And, and that cancer sets in then, and then there's a downward spiral from there.
I can say this, maybe you can't, but go back to that story where you had the transition of those two coaches, and let's call them Gats. That transfer of enthusiasm or your own self-belief and who you are as a human transfers onto the team. And what's just great there, as I reflect that part of the conversation, is you came fifth, he came seventh.
Yeah.
I just think, not having to go at the bloke, but I'm sort of having it.
Well, we're all competitive, aren't we?
Yeah.
Man, I hate
That's
losing.
the game.
Yeah, well, we play a game of tiddlywinks now. I'll still want to beat you.
Yeah.
You got to be competitive. Yeah, exactly, mate. And I was fifth in my comp and he finished seventh in his. So, but I still, like I said, we had Zach Purton come and talk to our coaches.
Oh, you did?
2
He's
weeks
a great
ago.
bloke, eh?
And what struck me with him, his self-belief. Unbelievable self-belief to know that he's the best and he's going to be the best and he's going to win.
And look at what he's done.
100%. Like, he's in one of the toughest gigs in the world. The pressure he's on with
for
what goes
that
on in
extended.
Hong Kong.
Speak of longevity, you know what I mean? Like when we throw out athletes like Roger Federer and all that.
Yeah.
In his world, seriously, the longevity that he's had in his sport to be successful like he has.
I don't think people understand the physical demands those guys go on. And just keep it a weight. What was he, 54 kgs?
Man.
To keep that weight, but to be strong enough to control a 500-kilo animal.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. But his self-belief and his drive was just unreal. I thought that stuck with me a little bit, that you just got to back yourself because nobody else is going to.
Yeah. Hey, I just want to go back again. So, because you said you spent time in Italy, then you went to Japan, and then you set up that team, the Washington team in the US, and then you came to Hong Kong. As a study of culture reflected by rugby, can you give me some observations of rugby in Italy? Observations of rugby in Japan. Yeah. My wife's Italian. As I said, thanks for letting me be on a public holiday, babe. You're awesome. And, a generalisation of Italian culture, and I can because she's Sicilian as well. It's one of the reasons why I love my wife so much. Yeah. It's like you said, you're very direct in your speech. My wife is very direct in her speech. I know when I'm stepping out of line. And then I sort of go, that's a good reflection of Italian culture, actually, as a generalisation. And then I go Japan, and I go the the businessman, you know what I mean, the factory man, whatever. And then from there I go to the US and I go, well, what about that place? You know what I mean? As a reflection of your time in each of those countries in the world of rugby, just past a couple of comments on the culture of rugby in those four
I think I'd like your wife.
She'd like you, mate, by the sound.
Look, I loved Italy. You know, if I ever retire, I think that's where I'll go. Just such an amazing country, beautiful people. Love the rugby because they're so passionate and emotive about it, you know. And you can see the results now with Italy. They're a tough,
brilliant, huh?
They're a tough team to beat now.
Yeah.
But they love everything they do, whether it's cooking, whether it's a conversation, rugby. They just have a passion for life. And, you know, it's not a wealthy country, Italy, as you probably know, but
especially the South.
But they love life,
man. Yeah,
but they know how to live.
Yeah,
and I think, like I said, I loved my time there. I was in a little town called Biella, in north of Italy, just north of Milan, and wonderful people, beautiful food, and the whole village just got behind us. So, you know, we came back. I think we'd just been to Sardinia. We'd won a game there. We'd been promoted to Serie A. We came back, and it was 1 o'clock in the morning. Had a flight back, arrived in Milan, had to drive a bus another hour and a half up to Biella. 600-700 people came out on a rainy, horrible night at 1 o'clock in the morning to welcome us in. And I thought, life don't get better than this. Yeah. How good is this? That these people, they want to just celebrate something just because it's theirs, you know. And so that was, to me, that's Italy in a nutshell. Celebrating something like that, which really it's a game of rugby. It's not life or death.
Yeah.
But because it's something to celebrate, they celebrate it. And so we were going at 6 o'clock in the morning. I had to catch a flight at 6 a.m. and I just stayed awake, and the owner put on a car for me straight to the airport, and I was out. But it was that was Italy for me.
Yep.
You know,
Japan,
different again. Look, you got hierarchy in Japan, so you got a head of rugby, you've got a big guy up top who makes calls around your finance. They're not always honest around what they do, which I struggled with. You know, they'll tell you something to your face, but behind the back, they'll be doing something else there. Japanese players were fantastic to deal with. Probably the growth of Japanese rugby is that they're very good at doing an isolated skill. You tell them this is what we're doing. Catch pass without any pressure, they're probably some of the best I've ever seen. Put a decision making in it, that's when they struggle a little bit, because that's how they're educated really. This is what you do, go and do it. And they do that really well. But the Japanese are adaptable, and man, they're quick, and they've got a lovely skill set, but it's the decision making around it. I struggle a little bit with the politics of Japan rugby, like I said, because there's a hierarchy of how you do things. Whereas in Italy, it was what's going to make this team work. In New Zealand, it's how can we be the best we can be? What do we play in front of us? With Japan, it had to be very much black and white. This is how we do it. This is what we're going to do. And we do it because that's how we've always done it. And I struggled with that a little bit. And I love the coaching side of it. Like, I love being on the grass with the players. The players are fantastic to deal with, but I didn't enjoy the staff above the coaches. I thought I struggled with that management of not being honest. They're wanting to cut corners around funding or whatever it may be. We couldn't, for example, we wanted to do a team day, just go to a water park and have a team day. We were away from the pressures of it. We couldn't do it though. They wouldn't allow us to because the rest of the company couldn't do that. So we couldn't do that. We had to stay in the office. Oh, little things like that, you know, I struggle with a little bit because rugby is unique. And as we just talked about the reasons why, but it was very black and white. And I was in Nagoya, which isn't the sexiest city, you know. Tokyo is an awesome city, but Nagoya is pretty industrialized there. So it was very much paint by numbers type rugby. And that probably I struggled with a little bit, to be honest. You know, we worked bloody hard. There's a really good coaching group there. We worked really, really hard, but probably need support from up above, and the players could see that. So, you know, when it's not aligned, players are very quick to see there's no alignment there. And so the season wasn't as good as what it could have been. We started off, I think, we were top of the table after 5 rounds at Toyota, Chocky, first time. And then we had a few injuries. Management sort of saw success meant more money, so they started to want to pull back on things. And, yeah, we just caught in a poor spiral going downhill, unfortunately, from there. And the Americans are a little bit similar with the Japanese, in that they want to know exactly where they have to be at certain times. And rugby's never like that. Rugby's not like American football where you can sort of paint by numbers. You know, in American football, it's down to their foot placement of where they go.
Yeah, here's the play.
Yeah, and so that's how they're brought up, whereas rugby's not like that. So it was a different coaching model again, because you've got some unbelievable athletes, but they want to be told, well, where do I go here? Where do I go there? What happens if this happens? And you can't solve every issue in rugby on the hoof. You know, it's a game. You got to play what's in front of you. You got to play the space. You got to play whatever options. So that was unique. And rugby over there is not a mainstream sport. So like New Zealand and Australia, rugby, you get a lot of alpha type males, playing it, people who love the physicality of the sport. Rugby is a bit of an outlier, so you get some unique individuals in rugby in America who probably different to what we deal with in Australia, New Zealand, England, for example.
Would it be like their second choice, meaning I'm one of your athletes and I wanted to be an American football player, unfortunately I didn't make it, or a ice hockey player, unfortunately I didn't make it.
There's
and
a bit
then
of that.
I found that my skill set can meet this.
Wonderful people, great people, but just, and I think that the trouble in America is they think American footballers will make rugby players. They don't. They can't because, like I said, everything's so premeditated in American football. Yeah. The best rugby players come out of basketball.
Really?
Because of spatial awareness. They're so good at spatial awareness. They've got great ball skills. They understand movement to space and ball into space, all the things and principles in rugby that we really cherish. Basketballers, I found, understood it a lot better than American footballers. So not many American footballers have actually transitioned well to rugby. There's a few, but not many. You probably find it easier going from rugby to NFL, I reckon, than the other way around. And wrestlers, funnily enough, made really good rugby players.
Oh, I can imagine. Forwards especially.
Yeah, there's a guy playing for American now called Corey Daniel, there's 7, who was a college wrestler, and he came to Old Glory. Once we taught him how to catch and pass, he was unbelievable. He just loved the physicality of it. And at a breakdown was so strong. Got his body in some amazingly powerful positions very, very quick. But the American people were fantastic. There's obviously a lot of media talk around the politics, and I was living in DC. I didn't really see any of the rubbish they talk about here in the media. It's a wonderful country with wonderful people who are really supportive. They love sport and they do sport so well. The rest of the world's got a lot to learn about how to do sport from America.
Yeah, my goodness. The marketing
Aussie's close. Aussie does it really well. New Zealand's a long way behind how they do sport in America. I think Europe probably a little bit. The marketing of it, the characters and the personalities you get. And this is where rugby's lacking at the moment. League does it really well. They have personalities. Everyone knows Matty Johns.
Yeah.
They're allowed to be who they want to be. And they talk about
They celebrate that, don't they?
100%.
Yeah.
Reece Walsh, we know he's had his little misdemeanours.
Yeah.
Everyone knows Reece Walsh, though.
Yeah.
And what a talent he is.
Drinking water out of his new toilet. And then all of a sudden it was like, what? Yeah. And then he scores a try.
Exactly.
Brilliant.
Exactly. But that's what rugby needs.
Yeah.
We've got a bit sterile, We want everyone to be the same. And Joe Marler's an outlier in rugby. Joe Marler should be celebrated. We want that uniqueness and those characters. We want people to understand the people who are playing the game. And I think that's where league and American sport do it so well. They've got these personalities and these people, and they think they know you. Everyone thinks they know Reece Walsh.
Yeah, that's a great observation.
In rugby, we need to find where are these characters. Everyone loves Artie Severe because he's just, he's Artie. He can dance, he can sing, got a fashion design line, all those sort of things. We need more of those.
It's funny you say Artie Severe. When you were saying that in my head, sometimes you do a YouTube, I've got some time and I want to fill this space, the space I have in my brain and the space I have in my schedule with something that I find inspiring. And often I'll do some stuff on rugby league or boxing or rugby union. And once I listened to Artie Severe, and he told the story of growing up with his brother. They didn't have any money. They have to walk like an hour and a half to get to rugby, play the game, and walk back. And him and his brother would have races with the cars. Oh, there's a car 50 metres behind. There's a telegraph pole. We've got to. That's what they do. They just they'd play. No wonder the dude's work ethic is phenomenal when you hear of his childhood. And I thought, what an amazing ambassador for the sport this guy is.
I was coaching New Zealand schools in 2011, and Artie was my captain. I made Artie my captain. Back then he was 17, 18 young man. Still had the tattoo on the neck at that age, still at high school. But what an incredible young man. And we had a family function before we just left for Australia to play a test match in Australia, and my family came along. I think my daughter was something like 11 or 12, and my son was 9. What you like, you're an 11, 12-year-old girl, you're pretty self-conscious, and here she is, all these big, 17, 18-year-old guys. But Artie came straight over and made a direct beeline for us, gave my wife a kiss on the cheek, took my daughter, gave her a kiss on the cheek, shook my son's hand. Ever since then, they've been his biggest fans.
Unreal.
Just got little acts like that he's so good at, and he can put the right words in the right space in the right time, Artie, but just a wonderful young human, I thought, at that time. And it shows now, I think the All Black captaincy you saw on the weekend just gone, how good he is at that, and the players just want to follow. And I don't know so much as what he says, but they all want to follow him, and that's because he's just a very good individual. He's a very good human, and I think it's fantastic the success he's had in rugby.
Yeah. another observation that I have with that marketing side, I think the All Blacks are one of the most phenomenal teams in any sport. Well, I remember when I interviewed Nick Gill, I think he said they're the most successful international team across any sport. And then to be a captain for the All Blacks, or expand it to anything, I think to be a great captain, you need to be a great person as well, on and off the field. And the All Blacks seem to really exemplify that culture, I feel.
Yeah, look, I think that's a big thing. Like you talk about no dickheads earlier, and the All Blacks were probably the ones that started that, I think, and have exemplified
Sweeping up the dressing sheds at the end.
Yeah, exactly. And they get a bit of stick for that now. You know, the Europeans especially give the All Blacks a bit of stick. If you read guys like Stephen Jones when they write, they give the All Blacks a bit of grief because they sweep the sheds and they make sure it's tidy and clean and they're respectful, those sort of things. But that's because that's the All Black values that they want to live by and stand for. And now they don't always get it right, but generally you find they do. But what I'd probably like to see a bit more is let those personalities shine. Like let the artist shine, just be who he is. And I think because he's has such strong belief in himself, he's done that. He's let himself be himself. But I think they could probably let more of them do that, to be honest. But the All Black brand is huge, I think, across the world. I think I've got some concerns, after doing a lot of age group stuff through New Zealand and for my province, where the New Zealand high performance is going right now. You saw the score on the weekend, just the other day, of the New Zealand schools, Australian schools.
No, I didn't.
So Australian schools beat New Zealand schools 81-40 something, 88-41, which is unbelievable at under 18 level for a New Zealand team to have 88 points put on them.
Wow.
There's a real concern. New Zealand hasn't won another 20 title for something like, 8-9 years or something like that. So I think the All Blacks are such a strong brand that they'll always have quality players coming through. I do worry about the steps in between to get the players there, though, right now. Of where it's at, and that scoreline's unbelievable. I'd live to be 1,000 and still, I thought, never see a scoreline like that against a New Zealand under 18 team. So I think there's a few questions to be asked about New Zealand high performance rugby, where it's going, what it's doing, and why it's not succeeding.
Geez, mate, let's do another podcast on that.
Yeah,
let's jump back into Hong Kong though.
Yep.
So from the US, you transitioned to Hong Kong then?
We went to New Zealand for about 8 months.
Yeah.
And I was sitting at home one day, and a guy who'd been called Chris Dindle, who'd worked at the Chiefs and the Brumbies, rang me and said, "Oh, look, did you see this advert for Hong Kong? They're looking for a head of technical rugby." I said, "No, I hadn't seen it, mate." And so I got a call from Jo Hull, who at that time was head of high performance in Hong Kong China Rugby, and she said, "Can you apply?" So I applied, spoke to her and a few of the coaches, and was given the job, or asked to take the job on. So I came across, and I wasn't originally supposed to be the head coach. I was just supposed to be head of technical rugby in Hong Kong. But Joe said, "Oh, can you? The team's got a series against Germany. Can you be head coach as well?" So I took that role on.
Got a promotion on day one, mate?
Yeah, well, I don't know if it was a promotion, but yeah. So I took that on, and obviously we had a great series against Germany. Players built in and bought into what we were trying to achieve, and then obviously we went from there into bigger things. Won the ASC, went to South America on a tour, and did really well in South America. Just went down to Chile, who've just qualified for the World Cup as well, and beat Paraguay convincingly, beat Brazil, came back home, and then we had a series against Brazil that we probably weren't as good as I thought we should have been. And then next thing we know, we were told this is your pathway to a World Cup. You win the ARC, you're going to World Cup. So everything went into that from there. We contracted, I think, 10 players full-time from there, and I brought Lewis Evans on full-time to work with the union because he was a CCO before that, so we brought him back full-time. Logan Askin was at Football Club. We brought him, he was our attack coach from when I started, so kept him. And then Alex Allen was our scrum coach. Mano Myers did Collision, so they were all working with their clubs, and they transitioned into this with a full-time program, building into that ARC. And then, it came along really quickly, and we probably didn't have a great start against UAE. We won, but didn't win as well as we thought we should have. And then, Sri Lanka was a great home game, that one. And then
some great attacking rugby. Gee, that was a great game.
Yeah, we weren't short to get. We just didn't know about things. You don't know anything about Sri Lanka, and there was so much at stake. Normally, I would have rotated players around and given everybody exposure, but with so much at stake, you couldn't. You had to put what you thought was your strongest team out every single weekend because there's too much to lose.
It was do or die, wasn't it?
100%. Yeah. So even though people said, "Oh, you won by 70 points or 80 points, whatever it was," why didn't you rotate your players? Because we didn't know. You don't know what Korea had been doing. Maybe Korea's got 4 full-time teams. So you don't know.
And
what
a Netflix series.
Exactly.
Have you seen it? I was like, what?
No, I haven't seen it yet, but yeah.
It's not that good to watch.
Yeah,
well, sorry. It's interesting for a couple of episodes, but then I fell away.
So because we didn't know you couldn't rotate players, we needed to win at all costs. So that's that's how it eventuated. So we had a great night in Korea and Seoul that night and celebrating, and now all the hard work starts.
So, okay, let's talk the roadmap to the 2027 World Cup. You said everything kickstarts Thursday. That's tomorrow. Is that right?
Yeah, so we've been in training we've had six weeks now full training. Going into this next block. They've had a break for a couple of days and they come back in tomorrow for testing block. Next Friday, we travel to Japan. We travel to Fukuoka and we play Mazda on the Saturday. We then fly to Okinawa on the Sunday and have a camp with 35 players in camp in Okinawa for the week. Yeah. We then fly back to Fukuoka on the Friday to play Loureiro on the Saturday, fly back on the Sunday, and the following Friday night we play Japan 15 at Kaitak main stadium. So first 15s game ever on that stadium.
Welcome to the life of a professional athlete, kids.
Yeah, here you go.
and a coach.
Yeah. And then obviously we'll go into November games. The trouble we have with November games is we don't know who we're playing yet. We're supposed to play Zimbabwe, who'd qualified as the African qualifier. They've pulled out on the slate financially.
Oh,
so we have a couple of options. Just waiting for World Rugby.
They've pulled out of the Rugby World Cup or pulled out of
our series. They've just gone and sacked their board. They've sacked their CEO. So they've got...
Seems to be a reflection of that country from top to bottom, doesn't it?
100%. So, So we're not sure November yet. We'll be playing games. It's just who our opposition will be. We're still a bit unclear on. The boys will then go into club rugby. They'll go into Hong Kong Premiership after that. And then we go from a build-up from April through to July for the Nations Cup, which is what World Rugby set up. A competition now for teams ranked 13 to 24 who are in the World Cup. We now go into a test series against those teams. So in July and November, which are the test windows, we play 3 tests in July and 3 tests in November against other World Cup qualifying nations who are ranked.
Oh, that'll be a great litmus test.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
So it's the teams who aren't in SANS, our 6 nations, are all playing in there. So we could play in the likes of Georgia, for example, or Uruguay, or Portugal, Spain, whoever it may be. We won't know till December once the World Cup draw comes out, and then the Nations Cup draw will come out after that. So that's great to have that competition already, because our biggest issue we have is competition between club and international level is a massive gap.
Yeah.
So trying to bridge that gap has basically been our toughest challenge. It's been hard to get international matches. World Rugby aren't much help in that regard. So
that was a question I had. Yeah, 'cause it seems as an outside observer that there's so many strengths to Hong Kong China Rugby, but as far as opportunities for growth, it seems like the talent pool, the depth, just because the nature of Hong Kong, 8 million people is it that we got here? Rugby is a big part of it's a subculture of Hong Kong, but it doesn't permeate like it does in New Zealand. So to get that depth and regular top quality competition, which you would think would sort of inoculate someone against performing as well as they can in the Rugby World Cup, would be one of the big challenges I imagine you have.
Yeah, 100%. Look, depth is a real issue for us. And we're trying to grow the local game here. We've got a team called the Dragons, which Saloom, who's former 7-star, leads that program and trying to get into local schools and get kids playing the game. Obviously, we're expat heavy in our national team, but a lot of those guys were born here or their parents were born here. So there's generational growth there. We're trying to get 50 players we think could actually go to a World Cup, build that depth to around 50 players. But that's our challenge. I've got 36 contracted.
36.
Probably 40 who I think could go to a World Cup tomorrow if you twisted my arm. But we need to grow that to about 50, 55 who I think could go to a World Cup in 2 years' time.
Yeah.
And some great young kids coming through. Guys like Max Threcold, who's at college at Berkeley, those young kids.
That's a great... So his dad's one of my mates.
Yeah.
We used to play Repulse Bay Rugby and my boy Max Threcold was there. One of my mates, Bryce, his daughters are all playing now representative rugby union in Gordon in Australia. Liam Gordon, another one, Seb, his dad. Like there was this Lizzie Stanton, who's playing. Elsie Hume. Like it was this amazing. Like we were just all mates, families, and we'd go down to Repulse Bay on a Sunday, organised by one of my best mates, Bryce. His passion for rugby league and rugby union is as big as this room, mate. It's unreal. So, and his passion for mateship, brotherhood, I would say. Anyway, so he became almost like the party planner for our group of friends and got us through COVID. Like he's when I have those memories of COVID, there's so many positive ones, mostly because of Bryce. And part of what he did was he got us down playing rugby union, beach rugby. And first it was, fathers versus the kids. And then we're like, well, we're a bit out of our league here. You know what I mean? With these kids like Max and Liam and Ollie Sinclair. And, at that stage, my boy was probably about 11, 12. Anyway, but the other day, we were there because I just flew down to Sydney. I flew down to Australia. My boy's at a school in Australia, a rugby school called Nudgee. It's a big Nudgee school. A couple of the front row played for Australia against New Zealand.
Nudgee, exactly.
Yeah, they're those guys. Anyway, so I was down there, I watched, and Seb, Gordon, Liam's dad, was at the airport when I was leaving. And I was like, hey, Gordo, how you going? So we hung out, we had a chat, and we're just talking about how Liam's now going to the SI. He's going to be, in his gap year, he's going to be a professional athlete. What a great experience for a kid, mate. So great. And he's an awesome kid. Anyway, so we sat there and went, what about that Repulse Beach Rugby that Bryce organised? And we listed off, there was like 8 kids that have had international experience who were just down there playing against us.
How good.
It was so fun.
Say thanks to Bryce for me.
Yeah, Bryce, you legend.
Yeah.
But so I know that family really well. There's some great young kids.
I think Max will be a star, to be honest. I think, the World Cup, he could be one of the shining lights.
Isn't that brilliant to think? And he's such a good, and it's a great family again. You've got to be a great bloke to be a great leader, that's for sure. But also to achieve in a sport that we said with the no dickhead rule, you have to be a decent type of
look,
kid.
you can tell Max has got great family values, hasn't he? His test debut, his grandfather was there, his mum, his dad, they're all there, which is, it showed you why he's going to, but he's got that little...
Travelling to Africa with him as well,
Exactly. He's got that competitive edge, Max, You can tell he's a quiet kid, but he's got a bit of assassin in him. So I think he'll do well. I think he's going to be a star.
Hey, let's expand it for a second. So let's talk logistics just for a second. So what's the player pool that you have contracted again?
35.
35. You want to expand it to what?
Well, I don't know if I can expand that contracted group. What I do need to do is build the depth to around 50 players because we have players
50.
playing overseas, for example.
Yeah.
So we've still got like Nate Tateri still at Shoot Shield. Paul Altier is still playing. He's playing in England at the moment. And we've got guys like Rob Carmichael who's at Edinburgh, second row there. Now, he's also eligible for Scotland. We'd like him to play for Hong Kong. Zach Wimbush at Exeter. He's eligible for Hong Kong, but he's also eligible for England and Wales. So those two guys haven't made choices yet about where they're going to go. So with if those players come into that pool, obviously all of a sudden your depth goes even more so. And then you've got Max at university in America. We've got a couple of kids in Australia as well, still at university doing their thing there. Like, there's Jude Hardings of the world. So that's where that depth will come from, not necessarily the contracted 35 that we have here.
And Dylan McCann's another one who was at the Repulse Bay.
Dylan McCann's in our group right now.
Legend. Yeah, he just got the full-time contract.
Yeah, he's with us. Yep. He's doing really well. Doing really well. Hopefully in November he gets capped. So, it's exciting times for him.
Yeah. So anyway, so let's say we want to grow the pool to 50. Let's talk support staff.
Yep.
Do you know numbers? Like how many support staff are in your team, so to speak?
Yeah, look, we'll get up to around 15 directly related to the team.
Yep.
We're building that as we stand right now. So we'll have Logan Aslin will take over as head coach from me. He's transitioning out of football club role. Lou Evans will come back in full-time. Mano and Mai will stay a part of the team, and we're employing a scrum coach as well. Kane Hames is coming on board for that Japan tour from New Zealand, former All Black.
Unreal.
Yeah. We'll see. We've got a bit of discussions with Kane about how long he stays for, but he'll be in for that camp. We've got Pete Nugent's our head of S&C. He's got a support S&C beside him, and then we've got Madison, who's our nutritionist, does a bit of S&C as well, so he's on board full time. Andy Yun, who used to play for Hong Kong, he's our analyst. He does a great job with logistics, analyticals. Charles Chung, another former Hong Kong player, he's my team manager. Does a great job, so he's come on board full time now as team manager. He's still doing a little bit of law on the side, but focused with us. And then Henry Elliott and Johnny Moses head the medical team for the players. So there's a good group there. We'll probably bring on board one more coach, to be honest, and possibly maybe another physio for that World Cup. Stephen Much, who's been with Ireland at 4 World Cups, I believe. He works at the SI for us now, and he's doing a bit of work around the medical side of us for as well. And then we have a guy called John Quinn who works for the Crusaders and New Zealand 20s on mental skills. He comes in as a consultant for us and works with mental skills with our players and is available to the players on an individual basis. He'll come in December and spend a week with the group as part of our review of that November series. He'll come back in February, and then he'll hopefully be part of that June, July test window as well. So they've had John for the last 12 months available to them.
Nice. And then the layer below that I'm interested in, funding, where does it come from? Is it the Hong Kong Rugby Sevens is such a successful and amazing tournament? Get there, people, if you haven't. It's amazing. 50 years next year as well.
Yeah.
Is Hong Kong Rugby propped up by the Sevens? Do you need outside sponsorship? Have you secured all that? Like, that's when you think about it, even that tour to Japan, that's quite an expense.
100%. And look, having 35 full-time players we never had before, remember?
Full-time, that's it. They're professional athletes.
They get paid.
Oh, go on.
So,
you boys are living the dream. You boys are living. So are you, mate.
Yeah.
But, as an athlete.
100%. We acknowledge that. We're lucky.
Oh, man.
We're in a privileged position. We know that. And we keep reminding the players every day. You could be stuck in an office or digging a ditch or doing whatever, but they get to chuck a ball around for a living, So the funding side of it, as you know, Hong Kong China Rugby's come from the Sevens. It is the biggest Sevens tournament in the world, but bar none. It's huge. It's a great weekend. Like you say, get tickets going out soon, so get your tickets very soon. And that props up all of Hong Kong China Rugby, really, the majority of it. But a full-time program costs a lot of money, and so the board have released funds for that program. Sponsorship, obviously, we've got our major sponsors. We've got HSBC and Cathay Pacific DHL, our three majors at the moment, and they're doing a great job supporting us. But we are looking for other investors to come on board who are keen to make sure that the 15s can succeed, not just at 27, but through to 31 in the States as well. So there are some projects going on behind the scenes around hopefully getting people excited and wanting to invest in Hong Kong China Rugby 15s work and keep these young guys like Max Streetgold coming back to Hong Kong to want to give back to the game and play it. So our commercial and teams doing a great job trying to get people excited about that and get people involved in it.
And what literally would that mean? Like, just say we have, let's say, HSBC or Cathay Pacific or DHL, the primary. Does this mean that it might, like, literally might mean a sleeve sponsorship or a short sponsorship, or
it could mean a variety. Like it could mean a variety of things. It could mean that it's a day that your brand's out there for a festival day of rugby or whatever it may be. It could be anything. The commercial team will try and find avenues where they can get everybody who wants to be involved and exposed and get their brand and their name out there. It's really tough with jersey sponsorship because World Rugby, you can only have a certain number of jersey sponsors.
Oh, okay.
And World Cups, as you know, is a clean venue. You can't have a lot of branding or sponsorship. It's got to be very discreet what you do. So that's a hard one to sell around the jersey stuff because of what World Rugby regulations dictate we can and can't have. So we have to be creative and try and get other people's names and brands out there in other ways. But look, we aren't a wealthy nation rugby-wise. There was an impression, I think, a number of years ago that Hong Kong was a very wealthy rugby nation. That's not the case. COVID, as you know, COVID knocked a lot of things over.
And far out, joint dynamics, mate. Anyone that's running a business or running an organisation, holy cow.
So a lot of staff got let go in COVID. The full-time program was stopped because they couldn't afford to keep it going. We're just starting to get those sort of things back, but there's not a lot of money there to do that. It's not like we're overflowing with cash.
So just another sort of tangent / brain explosion, because we're going to the Rugby World Cup, that certainly makes Hong Kong China Rugby a much more attractive proposition.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yep.
So does that mean that the marketing team has a deck and they go, hey, here's what we have? And have you noticed, okay, the team's gone to full time, have you noticed that sort of trickle-down effect come in yet?
Look, there's
people knocking on the door,
a lot more
I could
talk.
say.
There's a lot more talk.
Okay.
And a lot more exposure coming.
Yeah.
And I've had players come to me that they've gone to a meeting with so-and-so and they've just gone, wow, you're going to World Cup, how good is that? Yeah. A lot more talk like that where the players are actually getting some sort of notice and some sort of recognition for what they're doing and achieving. And our commercial team has got, they've got a deck, they're talking to people. Our CEO's talking to people about this now too, in terms of how can we recognise people who want to come on board and invest in the game here. Because what we don't want, and this is some of the talk, we just had an AGM where board members have been elected. There's talk around that because we've made a World Cup, that means that we need more money, so we're going to take funding out of youth and funding out of other parts of the union. That's not the case.
No,
that's exactly what we don't
perspective.
want. Yeah, and look, that's what I want to stop the talk around is that we're not wanting to take money out of any of those programs. Otherwise, we're just shooting ourselves in the foot. We've got to invest more money into our youth programs and our minis and all those sort of things. We're trying to find new investment, not take away from somewhere else. We want new investment to try and keep, like I said, we want to go to 31 World Cup. And then we want to go to 35 World Cup. I want your son to be able to have that chance to go to World Cup. So we have to be sustainable. This can't be a one-off pop 27. It's got to be better than that.
This is about legacy, huh?
100%.
That's where, again, those shivers. I love sport the best. Hey? Like it's legacy. This again, you players, what a privilege. Obviously, you earn it. It's a meritocracy. That's another great thing about sport, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a meritocracy. You don't perform, you don't go.
That's exactly it.
But then you have to consider that ripple effect. You just dropped a massive stone into a pond.
Yeah.
And that ripple effect has to be going to, like you said, 2031 and beyond. Like,
Yeah, and
what
that's,
an incredible position
The players
to hopefully get right. You know what I mean?
That's our challenge, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because we could easily fuck it up as well.
Yeah.
To be honest, we've got to work really hard.
Don't fuck it up.
Yeah, I'm trying not to. Trying not to. And this is part of the reason I've come out of head coach.
Yeah.
So that we can actually spend more time strategizing and building how can we keep this momentum going for years to come. So when I'm not here and your son's captain, that this goes, because we built a really good foundation and platform for it going forward. So,
oh, hang on just for a second. What a fascinating time capsule we've just created. You know what I mean? Like, here we are, 2 years exactly until Hong Kong China's rugby's first ever World Cup. I'll meet you in 10 years, mate, at the pub, and we'll play this again and just see what's come out. Like, if we just for a moment look at this moment as a bloody time capsule. Yeah. It's so cool, huh?
Yeah, you're buying the first round too.
Yeah,
how good.
Because thanks for giving me your time.
Anytime. But I think, that's all we do a thing called Who Am I? The players, they got to come they got to present a little bit about their background, why they play rugby, what's their why for doing it, a little bit about their families growing up. And it's been great for, they've been pretty vulnerable with each other. It's been an amazing little session to get to understand these players. But every single one of them, a part of their why is they want to be a legacy so that young kids want to play the game.
Yeah.
And they're genuine. It's easy to say that, isn't it? It's cliched. I want to create a legacy. I want young ones to play the game. They've been genuine in that belief that they want kids in Hong Kong playing rugby, and they want to be a part of the reason why they play rugby, which is a responsibility, but also a great privilege to have that you could be influencing young people in that way. And
when you frame success, and we just sort of said it's meritocracy as an athlete, you got to, when it's raining outside, if you want to be the best, you're outside.
100%.
You're practicing the mundane aspects of your skill set so many times that it just happens and you can be creative.
Yeah.
And that takes a certain type of person and a certain type of drive and a certain type of why. And when you expand that why to be it's not just about me, it's about this time capsule, or it's about what's coming. Like, it's easier, I think, to get out of bed. Not that it gets that cold in Hong Kong, don't worry about it, guys. But those blokes in Exeter or wherever they are in those days when you're thinking about playing for Hong Kong, or kids now, when your mates are, sorry, but I've got to do it, when your mates are sitting down playing video games on rugby or that sitting on that little rectangle that's stealing you so many opportunities from kids, physically anyway, you've got to be able to make the decision to go, you know what, I want to do something with my life in a sporting aspect, and let's choose. I'm play for Hong Kong. Woo.
Yeah, exactly it.
What a great goal to have.
It's become a reality now.
What a great goal to have.
Go to a World Cup.
Yeah, but you need to be motivated and to find a why that permeates beyond, I just want to be successful and known and make money, or whatever it is. When you expand it onto legacy and developing a culture, being a part of history. Man, I'm getting up to, I'll see you tomorrow, 4 a.m. in the morning, mate. We'll do a couple of sessions. Mike Tyson, remember?
There you go.
Used to find out what time his opponent was getting up, and he'd get up earlier just to win the mental game.
Yeah. I think, look, a couple of the players just had young families, just had babies over that ARC period. And they talk about this, want to make them proud.
Yeah.
Make those kids proud. If you go to a World Cup, how good to tell that story to your son and your grandkids or whatever else, going through. So that legacy piece has become really, really important. I think. Hopefully Hong Kong's like in, 2050, whatever it is, the World Cup there. We're talking about the first time in 2027. They're already talking about when we have a reunion. Hopefully I'll make it.
Yeah.
Whatever time,
Let's look after ourselves, mate.
Yeah, exactly.
Play this podcast.
Yeah. Hopefully, we have a reunion. We're telling these stories about what we did. That's the legacy. How good,
Yeah.
First ever.
Well, I zoom in. Did you zoom in? Wilson, we're at Monday Studios, everyone. Did you zoom in? Did you see that glint in Andrew's eye then? That was so cool, hey? That was fully awesome. Okay. Let's come more practical. And first I'll frame it with back to my YouTube jaunts when I've just got some time and I just want to fill that space with something that I find inspiring. Sometimes I'll go, let's go to rugby league for a little while. Sometimes I'll go and I watch some YouTube preparing the Panthers, for example. Incredibly, I love the coach. I really love a lot about that organisation. Anyway, so it shows them coming in for the first training session and then how basically to build that brotherhood, they take them and they just smash them. Like they'll bring in someone from the Australian Army and they just make them sleep deprived, put them in extreme physical situations. They'll do cold exposure. They'll just, basically paraphrasing, stress the shit out of them, take them to that breaking point and see how they come together. And then when they come out of that, like we've already touched on it, how hard this was, but then you just want to give your mates a hug. You build that brotherhood. You build that belief in your mate, and I'm going to do this for you because I know you do it for me, and I love you, bro. That sort of stuff. Chestnut. What are you doing with your team? Have you done any of that sort of stuff? Bringing in someone from the military to smash them up? What are you doing?
We haven't done that yet for this campaign. We will going forward because we want it to be relevant towards 27. So our timing around those things becomes really important.
Settle down, Andrew.
What we have done here is we needed our fitness and conditioning to be so much better than what they were.
Yeah.
So they've been absolutely flogged over the last 6 weeks in terms of their conditioning and what they've been doing training-wise, to the point where some guys have lost 20 kgs of poor weight, put on immense amount of muscle mass. So we've stressed them through training.
Yeah.
They were allowed a little bit of a leeway on Saturday. They're allowed to go out and have a beer when they haven't really done a lot of that recent times. Alcohol obviously doesn't help recovery and those sort of things, but at the same time, you got to enjoy each other's company.
Yep.
So they were allowed a little bit of a leeway on Saturday for the first time. So I think they enjoyed themselves there. So we've done it more through a rugby orientation type, stressing them physically and mentally through there. But as we go towards 27, we need to come out of our comfort zones and come out of the rugby environment into a different environment where we're testing, leadership and those that can actually think when under stress. It's where we do that and how we do that. We're still putting some thought and planning around that. Talking to Dave Rennie, they used to do a thing called Outward Bound with the Chiefs. And it was an overnight. You basically were out in the bush by yourself for however long, 48-hour period, where you got to basically take care of yourself, look after yourself. And then they'd come back in tired, grumpy, hungry, and do leadership tasks. And you could see the players that wanted to quit and the ones that wanted to stand up and get it done and be leaders. And that's probably the avenues we're going to start taking, is we need to know who's the ones that when pressure comes on, who are the ones that are going to quit and who are the ones going to rise. Because those are your leaders on the field that you want to. Yeah. So we started planning towards that. We'll probably do that 12 months out from the World Cup. So this time next year, this is where we'll be putting them under all sorts of pressure and stressing those and seeing who those leaders are and going to be that we need in 12 months' time.
Something to look forward to, boys.
Yeah. I'll be looking forward to it.
Taking in the carrot, yeah. Do you know what? And then what came in on that whole aspect of see who the leaders are and pressure and expectations and media. I imagine Hong Kong being the second Asian team to go to the World Cup, there's going to be, I hope, a groundswell of attention and media that has amazing aspects, and talk about an opportunity company to sponsor. But also from a young man's perspective, in the spotlight, are we talking media training involved in some of this in the pathway as well? Yeah,
look, that talk's already been started. We had our commercial team come and talk about commercial opportunities for individuals. We already started doing that. Media is good, especially around their own social media profile, because they'll be given individual opportunities now to sponsor an energy drink or
that they can financially benefit from as an individual.
Correct.
Oh, that's cool.
But so then, how do they do that through social media? What's not then stepping on anything that the union's got in terms of sponsorship, stepping on toes there, legalities around it. So they've had all that sort of talk going forward. Correct.
That. Yeah, brilliant.
When I came through, social media wasn't a thing. So it's a new thing for me to understand social media and followers and how that generates sponsorship by how many followers you have. I'm used to having a microphone and a journalist put a microphone in your face and talk to you. Now everything you see and do is videoed.
Yeah.
So these guys have to be aware of that all the good and bad. But at the same time, I want them to be themselves. I want them to be authentic. I want those characters that I talked about earlier. I want them to just be. We got some funny buggers in our group. I want them to show that. To be themselves, to be funny, to be unique.
Yeah.
So I think they'll start picking up these individual type sponsorships deals, like I said, whatever it may be, through proteins, energy drinks, power bars, whatever it could be. And that's where that training becomes really, really important, to make sure they're putting that product in a good light, putting themselves in a good light around that product. So they are selling it, getting the likes that the companies want. And in terms of media, you know, Josh Hurst does a great job, our captain, around dealing with that media. He leads that probably for us. And then our marketing team advises, you know, who players can talk to in general mass media, and what things, you know, things they got to say. But at the same time, like I said, I want them being a bit unique, and I want them being themselves and authentic, and just being, you know, real. Like, you imagine Charles Hickson-Smith in front of a TV camera. How good would that be? You know?
Oh, man, here you go.
So let Higo be Higo. Let Zach Sinnerman be Zach. I think it'd be great entertainment. I'd watch it. So I think, you know, those are sort of things I want to see.
Yeah, I passed comment previously. So he goes the pro coach for my boy and his age group at the Hong Kong Football Club, and he came in last year, and just the passion and enthusiasm he has, and I mentioned to you sometimes, you know, he gets so, like, it's great for teenage boys to be around this guy. You know, like, I'm so thankful. And then sometimes I'm standing back watching. I pick up the cones. So I used to. This is the first year I'm not a coach. I use that very loosely, Andrew. I pick up the cones. I'm a great cone picker up.
Pretty important.
Where do you
want
me to put them, mate? I'll put. Okay, I
Pretty
will.
important.
I'm great at it.
Yeah.
Anyway, but there's sometimes, like, when they're playing at half time where he'll come over and speak to him, spit flying out his mouth, but just passion, you know. And it's so great for young men to be around that, and I just love it.
Yeah.
So sorry, I wanted to transition to talking rugby.
Yeah.
Now, strength and weaknesses sort of stuff. That's SWOT analysis.
Yeah.
Let's talk strengths.
Yeah.
From Hong Kong rugby perspective now, and by the time we get to the World Cup in 2 years' time.
Yeah. Look, we've just had to redo a whole game model on that. You know, and it's been an interesting job the coaching group's been through the last month. It took us probably basically a month to put it all together, because what we did in ARC is not going to work for us in the World Cup. We aren't going to beat the All Blacks. Let's just be honest about that.
I'm so stoked, but I'm so scared for you guys.
Yeah,
you know,
but we need to compete against them.
Yeah, mate.
But we need to beat those teams who are ranked maybe 1 to 8 places ahead of us, because there'd be one of those in our pool.
Yeah,
we beat them, we got a chance of going through the final 16.
Can you imagine?
So how good's that? To actually win a game in your first World Cup.
Yeah, mate.
So our game model's based
There's
around
that glint again. Zoom in, Wilson.
So that's our, you know, we've got a pretty good set piece. I think our scrum will hold up against most teams in the world, as will our line. Our line-out's outstanding.
Yeah.
So I think there's our base there. And we can't afford to play a lot of rugby in our own half, so we're going to have a pretty strong kick strategy. We know that. It's another strength we've got. We think we can put us themselves in the right part of the field. Our biggest strength is that we work hard. You know, it's probably the smartest group of players we've ever coached in terms of IQ-wise, and they know how to work hard. A lot of them had jobs, obviously, outside of rugby before they came full-time players, like financiers, bankers, teachers, whatever else they were. They knew how to work hard. So those things that take no talent, kick chase, kick pressure, those things we've got to be good at.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's what we'll be working around, those things that take no talent. We'll outwork every team in that competition. And we'll force them into areas that we can then try and, you know, play off. So transition, counter-attack becomes really important to that part of the game as well. And we have to be able to defend for periods of time and force error. So we'll defend pretty high. We'll defend with line speed, because we probably can't defend those better teams for 10 phases. So if we can force error early in transition, that's what we'll be looking at. So that'll be where our strengths lie. Look, we don't have the athletes of New Zealand, for example, or France. So we may have to be a bit more clever in terms of our strike play, how we work through there. So that's, you know, something we're going to have to build and work on. We know majority of tries on World Rugby are scored from phases 1 to 3. So we're going to have to be pretty good at defending those areas, but also attacking those areas as well. Not many teams score, you know, going 7, 8, 9 phases anymore. That happens, but not as often as maybe it used to. So I think, you know, it's been able to stay in fights for as long as we can.
And then you just passed comment on the intelligence of the team. Is that a reflection of the age of the team? Like, if you give me an average age of your team, the Hong Kong China rugby team, what's the average age, would you say?
28.
And then, so that means that we're talking 30 at the time of the World Cup?
Yeah.
And then if you just, as a point of interest, if you went, well, what's the average age of New Zealand, Australia, South Africa? Is that less than that? I'm assuming it's a little
No,
less.
it's about the same. So
Oh, it is the same. Okay, cool. There you go.
I think the peak teams, the average age is around 28, 29.
Oh, there you
yeah.
go. I just made an assumption that Hong Kong might have a pool of older players.
No,
because
because we do.
Accurate.
Because you look at Joshy Hurstich is 33, 34, Tommy Hill 35. You know, those guys have been around Hong Kong for a while now. They are there. But then you've got the likes of a Callum Scott, who's 20, Tyler McNutt, 21, Max Threcold, 19. They start to drag that average down again.
Yep.
So, yeah, we've probably got it in terms of our age profile spot on.
Brilliant.
I think,
Okay.
in terms of that regard. But, yeah, look, because they've all had to COVID cut that full-time program before, they all went out and they found pretty good jobs, a lot of them. They got, really, the most of them taking pay cuts to come back to a full-time program.
Yeah.
Because they know how to work hard.
Yeah.
And they're smart men, and it suits the Hong Kong demographic, I think, pretty hardworking people in Hong Kong. It's one of the finance capitals of the world, so there's some pretty smart people here, and I think we just reflect that demographic a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's a great observation of Hong Kong as a whole. There's a certain DNA of someone that's attracted to Hong Kong because it does, it seems to foster opportunity. It's an amazing, thriving city with beautiful nature as well.
That's right.
Get on board, tourism board, get involved with Hong Kong.
That's exactly it. So, but Hong Kong is a work hard, play hard type city. You get to my age, you don't want to play as hard anymore. You don't bounce back as quickly. But the players probably were a bit like that. They worked hard and they played hard. We've tried to encourage the work hard bit and pull back on the play hard bit to the point where they're still enjoying life but not understanding recovery the next day has got to be a bit better if you haven't played as hard at night time.
Yeah.
And they've really bought into that. But I think that's people here know how to have a good time. The players know how to enjoy themselves and they do it really, really well. There's a pretty strong connection with our players. Our culture is fantastic. And that's led by our senior players. They enjoy each other's company during the day and anytime they're allowed to at night as well. But they work bloody hard for each other during the day.
So I'm just going the work hard, play hard / have fun. It's a training session. It's a ball work session. And I don't know, but let's just say pick a team. And, when I played sport, there was always a couple of guys and they made training so much fun. And, but there's a line and sometimes the coach would step in and just say, my mate Gavin, Sparky, pull your head in a little bit, mate. It's fun, but you know what I mean? As the coaching committee, but that's super important. You know what I mean? It can't just be clinical and sterile because it's brotherhood and I'm going to put my body on the line for my mate and I know I need to build that brethren. And sometimes you do that by messing around, just being dickheads. And young men are dickheads and girls as well. This isn't but younger people. And I think it's healthy to a certain extent to be able to express that during training. Yeah. How do you manage that? Like, pass if it's okay. One of the guys that's in the best possible sense of the word is a bit of a dickhead. He's a fun bloke to have at training and it's great for the camaraderie and it makes guys laugh and sometimes you work harder when you're having fun. It encourages play. We know through science now when people play, they're more creative, you know what I mean? As opposed to super stressed. So play's important. That's an important role in a team, whether or not it's highlighted or not. But I bet it is from you guys now because you're going to the World Cup. Yeah. Just speak to that for a little bit. Yeah,
look, there's obviously the white line. As soon as you cross that white line, you've got into your focus, your mentality and your rugby side of it. But they've got to enjoy what they're doing as well. But we're all competitive. You get to the level we're at, we all want to win. And to win, you've got to work hard and you've got to have that ability to compete. So we've got those characters like Tommy Hill's Mr. Positive, always up, always
Mr.
high.
Positive,
yeah, awesome. Always, that he's the one that's got a smile on his face and that Aussie twang reverberates across the field. You got Zach Cinnamon, he's got the loudest laugh in the world. So when Zach's in a room and he's always up and laughing, and Callum Scott's your joker. He's funny and so you've got those personalities, but they're also very competitive once they get on the pitch. Those men. So they drive that standard themselves. They know when they've got to switch on and switch off. We're beyond the stage now where I've got to crack a whip or bark or do what I need to do. They've got their own little fine sessions. If someone's done something silly, they've got to spin a wheel and they've got their fine sessions to keep each other in standard and have values, but they do it in a fun way. That's when we have to shut down social media pages sometimes, those sort of things.
That's important, yeah.
Yeah, so they run that side of it, the players. It's been set up so that the senior boys drive that. It used to be Zach Cinnamon and Jamie Pincott. Now Jamie's retired, Guy Spanton stepped into that role to run that with Zach. So they drive those sort of standards of how to have fun on a pitch, but when to switch on as well. And the coaches are pretty good at variating training, so it's not always the same things time after time, although I'm saying that the last 6 weeks they've been thrashed most days. But trainings vary so that it's always something different, something engaging, trying to make them think a little bit, challenge a little bit. So I think we probably got that part of it right. I'm not saying we can't do it better. I'm sure we can. But the players are very good now at self-monitoring when they want to have fun and when they need to actually start to focus. We've only had probably one poor training this block, I reckon. The rest of them, they've been pretty much on.
Okay, that's fascinating that you say that. You analyse part of the role of a coach, and you actually just said something also that was really beautiful. You said, I think we've got it right. We've always got space for better. So there's that growth mindset that sort of should be when you're a world-class performer. And then you said, of this training block, 6-week training block, we had one time where we got it wrong. So I'm just curious, did you study that time that you got it wrong in order to learn from that experience so that you don't get it wrong next time?
Yeah.
And then can you tell us about that?
So all our trainings, obviously, we video everything.
Yeah.
It's more important to video your training in the game, because if you're making mistakes in training, they'll just transfer to the game. If you stop it for the game, obviously. So we analyse those trainings, as all good teams do, pretty thoroughly and work through it. But I knew that particular training, after the training, I knew it wasn't a good one. The players knew it wasn't a good one. It's the first time I'd barked at them for a while, to be honest, after that training. It was just, they were going to have a hit out against a bit of a live contact against Kowloon. I think their minds were on that hit out rather than on the training. It was just the mentality of it, getting the mental side of it right. They knew what they had to do. It wasn't like they didn't know what they were doing. It was just purely where their mental focus was at that time, and it wasn't quite there. It was on what was coming up the next day. And sometimes you've been in those teams, you have a shit training on a Thursday, but you have a magic game on Saturday. And often it's because on the Thursday you're thinking about the Saturday. You're not thinking about the Thursday. Yeah. And it was a little bit like that, but we've got to be better than that. We have to be on every single training. We've got to be better than the last training every single time. So we've got to be better than before every single day. We've got to be trying to get better. And that's, we drummed it into them. The senior players drum it into them all the time. We've got to be better every single time we're training, or we're doing rehab, or we're stretching, or nutrition-wise, all those sort of things. We've always got to be better.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And then I would, where my mind went for a second, that experience, can you, quote-unquote, bank that experience and say, hey, because imagine the Thursday before you play South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, France, whatever. Like, I imagine as a young athlete, there's an element of, well, I've put these guys up on a pedestal and now I need to compete against them. Here I am training in that game before. Maybe, there's an element of, my God, South Africa, their forward pack is phenomenal. So there's so many in the theatre of our mind as an athlete, jumping in the heads of your athletes. Can you draw on that and say, hey, guys, it's still Thursday? Yeah. Is that an opportunity that you see as a coach? Or
Yeah, look, I think those sort of days when you got those games, Thursday, you just need to make sure they've got real clarity about what they're doing, because you want them relaxed as well. And when we know what we're doing and we're confident what we're doing, we're more relaxed, which means we're going to perform better. So when we get caught and we're not quite sure, that's when the nervousness creeps in and all those. You're going to be nervous anyway, but that's when you haven't got clarity about what your role is and what you're trying to achieve. That's when you start to shit yourself a little bit. So we need to make sure they've got real clarity on that Thursday, and that's what energy and enthusiasm comes out in that clarity, hopefully, and then try and get them relaxed as we can for those big games. Before Sri Lanka, I probably wound them up a little bit because I was worried they wouldn't take them, for what it was. It was a must-win game. Yeah. So Thursday was probably a bit tougher on them and a bit more. We needed to have a tune-up, and that's
verbally or physically. You
no, physically we pulled back a little bit. Verbally, they got some pretty clear messages about what expectations were.
Share one or two of those.
I talked about competition, having to compete for places and compete for what we're going to get. If we want it, if we want the rewards, we have to work bloody hard for what we're going to get. Nothing's going to be given to us. So it's that type of message that if you want it, you've got to work bloody hard for it and you've got to compete for it. It was that type of theme through that particular week because we didn't know what we were going to get that week. So I was pretty tough on them that week. Whereas going into Korea, I'd pulled back. It was about keeping relaxed, getting clarity, enjoying the moment together. Because some of those players may never play for Hong Kong again. So let's enjoy that particular week together and that moment together. Yeah. We all knew it was a must-win game. We all knew that if we won what the result was and if we lost what the result was. So there was no point harping on or going on about we have to win or any of that kind of bullshit, because that doesn't work. It was all about how we're going to do the best performance for that particular weekend, how we're going to get players to play their best. So that was a lot more relaxed that week and a lot more just about getting them in the right mindset for playing the biggest game for a lot of their careers.
What would be the biggest crowd that's watched the boys play, the Hong Kong China Rugby team?
I think it's about 4,000 or 5,000 at Kai Tak Youth Stadium.
4,000 or 5,000. Okay.
They'll get 10,000 October 24th, Friday night. You can buy your tickets now. We're playing Japan 15. So,
go on.
Yeah.
I think we're coming out on Monday the 27th. Damn it. We'll try to expedite this. Anyway, and then if we fast forward again to 2 years from now in the rugby, we're talking 60,000.
Correct.
Aren't we? Okay. Well,
so imagine if we play in Australia, for example, it could be anything.
Unreal. So then a story just jumped to mind, and it was this tennis coach, and it was preparation for the athletes, tennis players, to handle the pressure of big tournaments such as Wimbledon. So they used to have the guys play, the athletes, the girls and guys play, and then there'd be people on the sideline yelling out, "You're no good," and they just try to create the chaos, the heckle, as closely as they could create some of those unforeseen parts of being an athlete surrounded by thousands of people, and some of those people are dickheads, and rugby throwing cups and all the stuff that they do. And then another story. I went to Wembley before they knocked it down. When I lived in London for a little while, it was great fun. Anyway, so I did the tour of Wembley before they knocked it down, and we're in the dressing sheds, and they even had the jerseys up, and then we ran through the tunnel, and they flicked on the speaker system, and they played the noise equivalent to as if the stadium was full, and it was just amazing. How do you prepare your place for that? Can you create some of that?
It's pretty tough to create.
Yeah.
I think those Nations Cup games become so important under the pressure of that. It's more your communication on the field at the time becomes difficult.
Yeah,
with the
hearing,
noise.
yeah.
So it's getting those processes probably in place. Very hard to create 60,000 people watching you in a stadium, So we can talk about it, and John Quinn can do his best around mental skills of preparing for it, but until you actually do it, it's a really tough one. It'll be more around the process of communicating what our line-out call is or what our play call is, to make sure that everyone can still get that with all the noise and the distractions going on around it. Players love a crowd.
Yeah. Inspired by baseball, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Is there any of that going on? Is there any body language stuff? Okay.
No, we try and just keep it really simple, one to two word triggers if we can. So it's a really, really simple process of calling. Certain calls, like if you want your cross kick pass, there's
Yeah. Or the kick through. You see the players do it now. You'll see that hand
I'll
go
do
out.
that.
Yeah.
Line-outs will have body language. So line-out calls will have body language as triggers rather than just a call. So there's physical line-out triggers for that types of things. So there is some of that. Yeah.
Got it. And then just a minute ago, we started on the SWOT analysis. Opportunities for growth for Hong Kong rugby, would you say?
Oh, I think around that collision area, probably, the creating speed of ball and slowing ball down. Defence has probably been an area where we can slow ball down more than what we have, but that's because of what's being put in front of us. We struggled against the Japanese teams last year. Just their speed of ruck killed us at times. The other big thing is that now we're full-time is our strength and conditioning side, and Pete Nugent, who's our head of S&C, has done a really, really good job. He's been fantastic coming in. Now that he's got them in front of him all the time, our boys are so much fitter and stronger than what they have been over the last 2 years. So that's been a major growth area, but it's still an area for us to go to compete with Tier 1 teams, is to get us as strong and fit as what a Tier 1 team is. But that won't happen overnight. That's gonna take time.
Yeah, that's biology, isn't it, mate?
100%.
Yeah.
So that's a big work on for us. And then just getting our game understanding will be a constant work on for us to make sure we understand exactly what we're trying to do to be the best we can be. So, mate, there's a number of areas we need to grow in to be able to compete. But those are you can't cover everything. So those will be the key ones we'll look at going forward.
And then sort of a quirky question, I think, or quirky thought from my perspective, bringing people in that aren't in the rugby world, like you did Zach Burton already. In that run-up, have you thought of people that you would like to expose your team to?
Yeah, I think those people that overcome the adversity or go through that mental, like you talked about the guy who rode across the channel.
He's coming to Hong Kong in November, mate.
Those sort of guys.
Speak to Dave McCann. Yeah. You know Dylan's dad?
Yeah.
I think, do you know this?
Yeah.
That guy, Damien Brown's actually
he's coming
in.
He's speaking in Macau, I think it is.
Yeah. He is.
Yeah. Those sort of guys, I think, sharing those experiences, that mentally what you're capable of.
Yeah.
Because often that's the only barrier. It's the mental barrier on us as athletes that stops us. It's not the physical barrier. It's the mental barrier that stops us. So it's getting those sort of guys who can push beyond what we think are reasonable limits mentally is probably where we're heading. Like we talked about earlier, those challenges, like whether it's military or whether it's putting them under stress, those sort of things, that's where we'll make big gains, I reckon.
My old man used to say the difference between a good athlete and a great athlete is the top 2 inches.
100%. And it's so right.
Yeah.
It's so right. I often think back now as a coach, like I said, I was a pretty average rugby player, but it took me around the world playing. But if I know now what I knew then, I could have been so much better. Frustrates the heck out of me.
We're going to work on that time machine, Andrew.
Exactly.
Seriously.
Exactly.
And then you, Where do you draw inspiration from? I know, okay, you're going to the World Cup, but just outside of your game, where are you drawing inspiration from?
Oh, yeah, it's an interesting
Any
one,
mentors that you have?
Look, I talked to Dave Rennie. I was just talking the other day. You know, he's a guy that when I was a younger coach in Waikato and the Chiefs, he was head of the Chiefs. You know, he transformed that club into a club that's middle table into a championship team that won 2 on the trot. Bet teams like Crusaders were dominant with Richie McCaws and Dan Carter's of the world, and Ren's transformed them. I thought he was doing a great job in Australia before, you know, they had a brain explosion and made a dumb decision then. And he's in Japan now with Kobe. I had him over here last year working with our coaches. I get on a Zoom with him from time to time. We just talk about rugby. So he's been fantastic at just giving his time up, to be honest. I love reading. You know, guys like Wayne Bennett, I'll read his book. You know, the Ivan Clearys of the world, just watching what they do and other sports as well. I loved American sport because I loved seeing how their coaches worked.
Yeah.
So that's probably where I go to and just talking code with other coaches and asking what they're doing and where they're going. That's where, like having a Zach Purton, you talk to Jamie Richards, the trainer as well. It's about what those schedules are and how those guys drive themselves. And I always find those sort of things interesting around how that works. Osmosis is pretty handy, just listening to what other people are doing. And I watch a lot of rugby, which has been good just to pick up other things. And he used to talk to Ian Foster a little bit when he was in charge of the All Blacks about why he was doing things.
Ian Foster? Isn't he knighted? Is that right?
Is he knighted, is he?
Oh, geez, a couple of them have been.
I don't know.
Well, I hope I didn't get that wrong. Who I speak to the King or the Queen about that? Sorry if I got that wrong.
If Fozzie's been knighted, that'd be one for the books. So, yeah, I think those guys are at the cutting edge of the game. So what are they doing to improve their teams and make them better? It's always about because rugby is always changing. The game changes, become new trends and modern trends. And you want to be ahead of it. You don't want to just be following. So it's watching games to know, well, actually, we need to think about doing this a bit better. Because the defence has changed rugby. You know, it's not always for the better, but that's just the nature of the game. You've got to be so physically be able to do repeat efforts defensively now. So how do you break that down?
Yeah. And then on that, paying it forward, are you seeking out people that you can mentor? I know you're doing it with players, but then have you highlighted coaches, or do you give your time like you made at the start of this conversation?
Look, we've got some pretty good young. The coaches are a lot younger than me that are involved in Hong Kong, China rugby at the moment. You know, I'm probably 15, 20 years on most of them, to be honest. So hopefully I might be rubbing off on some of them in some way, in a positive way, I hope. So Logan Asplin, like I said, take over as head coach, Lewis Evans, Mano Meyer, the young coaches coming through. Then we've got other club coaches at the moment who I work with, our CCOs and our other premiership clubs that, you know, we meet once a week and talk about things and go through things. And we'll start watching games now as well. The club season kicks off on the weekend, so we'll start watching those games and giving them feedback. So, yeah, that's part of my role, is to grow those coaches as well and make sure that they're being challenged, really, and still learning in the game. And
then let's go to grassroots rugby. Andrew, you get invited to the Hong Kong local schools conference. There's every teenage kid, or let's say the high school from 12 to 17-year-old kid in Hong Kong there, and you want to build grassroots rugby. What do you say to those kids?
Have fun.
Have fun?
Have fun.
Isn't that brilliant?
Get a ball in your hand and have fun.
Yeah.
I think often, like I remember, you know, when I was a teacher, I would steal balls from wherever I could, rugby balls. And so when you had a PE lesson, there'd be 30 balls on the pitch and every kid would have a ball.
Yeah.
And I think that's get balls on the pitch, get as many rugby balls out there as you can. Let them have fun, let them muck around for the first 10, 15 minutes, just let them run around terrorising each other with a rugby ball, and then start to be a bit more structured in what you want to do and bring in the learning of it. But first of all, just let them run around. I mean, I think I learned rugby by playing at lunchtime with my mates and beating the crap out of each other, you know.
Pretending to be a certain individual.
Exactly.
You know? Yeah.
That's where I learned rugby.
Yeah.
So if I was going to schools, I'd have a whole lot of balls, chuck them out there and let them go and have fun.
There's so much wisdom in that as well, I think, because if you have fun, you grow to love that thing. You will naturally do it more often anyway. Yeah. When you naturally do something more often anyway, you get better at that thing. Yeah. You experience success. It's a perfect virtuous circle.
Probably my only concern with Hong Kong education system is that everything is so structured here because there's a lack of space. You know, everything's
got to be
confined by space. Yeah. And I mean, I see kids going off to piano lessons, swimming lessons, every lesson under the sun, before school, after school, tuition.
Yeah.
Whereas we never had tuition. You did your homework if you had to, if your mum made you. Otherwise, you were playing. And they don't really play here as much as what? Just that unstructured play where you grab a mate and a ball and you kick it.
Yeah.
First thing I used to do, you get a ball, you kick it, or you throw it, and you hit it. Whereas kids sort of walk past a ball. I want to see them pick them up and kick it or throw it at somebody, doing something like that.
Or they kick it.
Yeah. Don't even start.
Well, that's better than not doing it at all, because maybe you're observing it.
But I think if we can just get kids playing, having fun and playing unstructured play, that's how you learn to be evasive, that's how you learn footwork, that's how you learn to kick a ball, rather than me sit down and tell you and draw diagrams and tell you how to do it. Just go and have a crack at it first and see how you go.
Yeah. And then I reckon the last thing I would ask you, if you reflect over this conversation, anything that you'd like to add, like anything that you think, what is something that I'd really like to share with Hong Kong about the Hong Kong-China rugby team is going to the World Cup, and you should know this, or to kids, or...
Yeah, well, I think people need to understand how much the players really care about it and how much they really love the game here, and they really... Look at some of them, a lot of them aren't born in Hong Kong, and people think that because they don't look like what they think a Hong Kong person should look like, that they don't take pride in what they do. The players love playing for Hong Kong, China. They love wearing that jersey and wearing that emblem, and they take great pride in that. So I want people to realise that they sweat blood for that particular jersey, and they're proud to say they play for Hong Kong, China. Just because they don't look like what people think they should look like, or they don't, they weren't born here, doesn't mean that they don't take it any serious. And I get frustrated. There's often social media comments that people say, they don't look like Hong Kong, China, because there's a lot of European faces. But that's sport across the world now. If you look at European football teams, I wouldn't say they look like what I'd say a French person should look like, or what a Norwegian person should look like. The world's changed, and we're a lot more, cross-blended in terms of who we are as a world now. And Hong Kong, China is no different to that. So celebrate those that have come from being born and bred here, but celebrate those that have come here and given their careers to wanting to make Hong Kong, China rugby better as well, as what I'd say. Just celebrate the fact that we've achieved something, and we're really proud to say that we've done it as Hong Kong, China rugby.
I'm so proud. I've been here for 20 years, and I love this place. I feel I have the two best homes in the world, Hong Kong and Australia.
Yeah,
it's
sure.
amazing. I'm just so proud. Like, I went to that game at Sri Lanka, when Hong Kong beat Sri Lanka, with a few mates and my wife, and we were just over the moon.
Yeah.
And then just when you project forward, like that, again, that ripple effect, what this could mean for Hong Kong, China rugby, Hong Kong as a whole, it's just such a beautiful time.
Yeah, that's so good to hear that you love that experience. That's what we're trying to do. Create great experiences for people. Rugby's an entertainment game. I know we do it because we love playing it. But at the end of the day, we also have to sell tickets and get people excited by it because it's entertainment. So good to hear that you enjoyed yourselves and had a great time. And hopefully we hear more of those stories going forward. People just loving watching and being proud of whatever the results may be. Just proud that you can see a performance that you're proud of.
Get involved, people. Let's get behind Hong Kong, China rugby.
For sure.
Mate, thank you so much for coming in.
Pleasure.
I had the best time doing this.
I've enjoyed it.
Best job in the world, seriously. I love you, babe. I wish I was with you, but I had a great time with Andrew for the last 90 minutes, however long we were doing this. So thank you for your
so
time.
Much.
And,
pleasure.
Mate, all the best.
Thank you.
Going forward, back to that time capsule. I'll see you after the Rugby World Cup, and maybe we can do another podcast where we tick off all these things. It'll be so fun.
Yeah, exactly. See what we can do. You buy that first round, I'll be there.
We'll do, mate.
Yeah,
We'll do.
Yeah.
All
Cheers,
right, mate.
pal. Thanks, mate.
Thanks, Andrew. And thanks for hanging out with Andrew and I. I'll see you again in 2 weeks with another great guest. See you guys.